it's important that people are seeing through the kind of mask of democracy that's being presented to them as an alternative to staying in the streets and building rebellion. So that in fact, the attempts to buy off through politicians, through various institutions, including elements of the church, are happening at the same time as the radicalization of some of those same institutions or people within them, and a level of kind of cathartic sense that community can actually have an impact and accomplish stuff. To me, that is the beginning of trying to challenge the way that all these institutional structures function, that the relationship of policing to prisons is a very direct one. It's hard to identify anybody in communities of color that haven't experienced either directly or through their loved ones or acquaintances the issue and the impact of imprisonment. And so I feel like we're at a point where the issue of opposing prisons and the institution can actually enlighten a vision that really sees an alternative to any kind of state structure that has to utilize those. Meaning that we can start to look at a vision of a different kind of world that in which, you know, populations don't have to be controlled in the same way. To me, at the core of that is a level of anti-colonialism. To me, it's about if you can replace the colonial entity with something else, what is that going to start to look like? And I feel like historically, one of the driving things of the anti-colonial era and the, you know, starting in the 50s and going through successful anti-colonial struggles in different parts of the world, how that influenced the internal movements within the empire itself at that period were very significant. Now I feel like that those issues are re-raised. They're re-raised by a level of resistance in the streets, much like the urban rebellions of the 60s. And so, to me, I feel like here's an opportunity to try to play a role in politicizing those experiences that I think we see emerging from within those movements, from within that street resistance, so that the more political that resistance becomes, the greater the potential there is to build a mass base for opposing the larger structures. So that calls into question capitalism and imperialism as systems. So that calls into question the right to colonize people, whether it's externally or internally. So that calls into question the righteousness of the kind of warfare that's being conducted by these massive military presences. And there are lessons both historically, again, Vietnam is capable of defeating the largest political force in the world in 1975, to today when even the prisons themselves can't contain the righteous call for human rights and the right to defeat a colonial power. Ultimately, it has to go there.